The Fury's weapons fired with impossible precision, taking out engines, power systems, and weapons arrays. Krell ships went dark one after another. The Battle of Krell Prime would be remembered for 1,000 years, not because of its scale or its brutality, but because it changed how the galaxy understood warfare itself. The Galactic Council had monitoring satellites throughout the system, recording everything. Every species would see what happened. Every civilization would need to reconsider what they thought they knew about power. High Chancellor Vexrith sat in the Council observation chamber, surrounded by representatives from 12 species. They had gathered to watch the conflict unfold, expecting to see primitive human ships torn apart by the Krell military machine. Instead, they were witnessing something else entirely. General Krellvath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conqueror's Fist. It was the largest warship the Krell had ever built, armed with enough weapons to reduce a planet's surface to molten slag. Around it, the reformed Krell battle fleet assembled. They had lost the first engagement, but that was just a setback. Now they would show these humans what real Krell strength looked like. All ships, battle formation Crimson Storm. Krellvath ordered. We will crush them with overwhelming force, no mercy. No restraint. The Krell fleet moved into position. 300 warships arranged in aggressive attack patterns. Every weapon was charged. Every shield was at maximum. This time there would be no careful targeting, no precision strikes. This time they would fight the Krell way. Total warfare. Admiral Dayun watched the Krell formation from Earth's command center. General Wu Jin stood beside her, analyzing their approach. They are committing everything, Wu Jin observed. No reserves, no fallback positions. They think this will be decided by who hits harder. Then we will teach them otherwise, Dayun replied. She activated communications to the fleet. All ships execute Operation Ancient Wisdom. Show them what 10,000 years of military evolution looks like. Captain Jae-sung received the orders aboard the Incheon's Fury. Operation Ancient Wisdom was not just a battle plan. It was a demonstration of every lesson humanity had learned through centuries of warfare, adapted for space combat and executed with technology the Krell could not comprehend. Tactical, begin the sequence, Jae-sung ordered. Let us show them why we study history. The human fleet split into 7 groups, each one moving in patterns that seemed random to Krell observers. But these were not random. They were based on naval tactics from Earth's ancient seas. 3-dimensional interpretations of strategies that had won battles thousands of years ago. Dr. Yoon-ji Kang, now safely aboard a human ship, watched the battle unfold while providing real-time psychological analysis of Krell behavior. She sat in a small observation room, monitoring Krell communications and military movements. Admiral, the Krell are confused, Yoon-ji reported. Their culture values direct confrontation. They do not understand why we are not fighting them the way they expect. That is the point, Dayun replied. Understanding your enemy means knowing not just how they fight but how they think, and then doing things they cannot predict. The Krell fleet surged forward, trying to engage the human ships in close combat. That was their strength. That was how they won battles. But the human ships stayed just out of optimal range, firing precisely targeted shots while maintaining distance. Sub-Commander Sang-min-oh coordinated the weapons fire across the entire fleet. His tactical AI processed thousands of data points per second, identifying critical vulnerabilities in Krell ship design and exploiting them with surgical precision. Target their communication arrays first, Sang-min ordered. Break their coordination. Make them fight as individuals instead of as a fleet. Human weapons fired. Hundreds of shots, each one calculated for maximum effect with minimum damage. Krell communication systems went offline. Suddenly, 300 ships that had been moving as one became 300 ships fighting alone. Lieutenant Yoon-ji Shin led her fighter squadron in a maneuver based on ancient cavalry tactics, adapted for 3-dimensional space. They swept through the Krell formation not to destroy but to disable and confuse. Her squadron moved like they shared a single mind, each pilot knowing exactly where the others would be. Squadron 7, break their formation at point Delta 9, came the order from Fleet Command. Use the Kanei pattern, Yoon-ji smiled. The Battle of Kanei, fought on Earth over 2,000 years ago, where a smaller force had defeated a larger one through superior tactics and coordination. Now that same strategy was being used in space, updated but still fundamentally sound. Her squadron dove into the Krell formation, drawing their attention. The Krell ships turned to engage, thinking they had an easy target. but that movement left them exposed to attacks from other angles. Human ships that had been waiting poured fire into the vulnerable Krell vessels, disabling engines and weapon systems. Within an hour, half the Krell fleet was drifting dead in space. Their crews were alive, their life support still functioned, but their ships could not fight. And still, not a single Krell soldier had been killed by human weapons. General Krell Vath could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet, the pride of the Empire, was being taken apart piece by piece. These humans fought like they could see the future, like they knew what the Krell would do before the Krell knew themselves. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our ships are stronger. Our weapons are more powerful. How are we losing?" Lieutenant Bom Lee, monitoring the battle from the Shadow of Soul, had the answer. She had been analyzing the engagement and saw the pattern. "Admiral, the humans are not fighting harder. They are fighting smarter. Every tactic they use has historical precedent. Every maneuver is a lesson learned from past battles. They are not improvising. They are applying knowledge." That was the truth the Krell could not accept. Warfare was not just about strength or courage or advanced weapons. It was about understanding. Understanding your enemy, understanding yourself, understanding the environment, and understanding the lessons written in blood across thousands of years of conflict. Commander Sua Im led a boarding action against one of the larger Krell vessels. Not to capture it, but to prove a point. Her team moved through the disabled ship like water flowing around stones, avoiding confrontation where possible, neutralizing threats efficiently when necessary. They reached the ship's command center and accessed the main computer. Sua downloaded the Krell's complete military database, then left a message in their systems. "We took this because we could. We did not harm your crew because we chose not to. Learn the difference." Then her team left as quietly as they had arrived, leaving behind confused Krell soldiers who had barely seen them. Back in the council observation chamber, Vexrith and the other counselors watched in absolute silence. They had thought humans were a young species, inexperienced in the ways of the galaxy. They had been wrong. Humans were not inexperienced. They were experienced in ways the council had never imagined. Commander Tae Yang stood in the back of the chamber, watching his fellow counselors process what they were seeing. He had tried to warn them. He had tried to explain, but some lessons could only be learned through observation. A Praxian counselor, the one who had laughed at humanity's offer to help, spoke quietly. "They move like they have fought this battle before. Every action seems planned, predicted." "They have fought this battle before," Taeyang replied. "Not this exact battle, but thousands like it. On Earth's oceans, on Earth's land, in Earth's skies. Humans have been at war with each other for our entire history. We learned things that peaceful species never needed to learn. And now?" Vexrith asked. "Now you see what happens when a species masters warfare and then chooses peace. The choice matters. Peace maintained by those who do not know how to fight is fragile. Peace maintained by those who know how to fight but choose not to is strong." The battle continued. The Krell kept trying to engage, kept trying to use their numerical advantage and firepower superiority, but none of it mattered. The humans were fighting a different kind of battle, one where victory was measured not in destroyed enemies but in objectives achieved. Captain Jae Sung executed a maneuver based on ancient aerial combat tactics. The Fury dove toward a cluster of Krell ships, drawing their fire. At the last moment, it rolled and accelerated, leading the Krell weapons to hit each other in the crossfire. 3 more Krell ships went dark from friendly fire. "This is cruelty," General Krellvath muttered, watching his fleet fall apart. "This is torture." "No," Admiral Dayun's voice came through his communicator. She had opened a direct channel to his flagship. "This is education. You wanted to see human military capability. You are seeing it. But you are also seeing our restraint. Every one of your soldiers will go home to their families. Can you say the same about the species you have conquered?" Krellvath had no answer. The Krell way of war left no survivors. Enemies were destroyed completely, their worlds burned, their populations scattered or enslaved. The humans were doing the opposite. They were winning while trying to minimize harm. Young Ho Nam sat in Earth's command center, coordinating the tactical AI across the entire fleet. He watched patterns emerge in the battle, saw how Krell tactics adapted and failed to adapt. His AI predicted their movements, The Krell border system of Vraxis contained 3 planets, 2 asteroid belts, and 17 orbital defense stations. It was the gateway to Krell space, designed to stop any invasion before it could begin. The stations bristled with weapons, enough firepower to destroy 100 ships. General Krellvath sat in the command center of the primary station, reviewing reports. The Council had not responded to his demands. Good. That meant they understood their position. Weak species always understood when they were beaten. An alarm chirped. A sensor technician looked up from his station, confusion on his face. "General, I am detecting a gravity anomaly at the edge of the system." "Clarify," Krellvath ordered. "There is something there, but our sensors cannot lock onto it. It is like space itself is bending." Before the general could respond, the anomaly resolved into a ship, then another. Then 73 ships appeared out of nowhere. Their arrival so sudden that the defense stations barely had time to register them. Captain Jae Sung-yoon sat in the command chair of the Incheon's Fury, watching the Krell stations scramble to respond. His ship had used an experimental jump drive that could cross vast distances almost instantly. The technology was decades ahead of anything the Council or the Krell possessed. "All ships, this is Fury Command," Jae Sung said calmly. "Execute Plan Delta 7. Precision strikes only. I want those stations disabled, not destroyed. Remember, we are here to send a message, not to kill." The human fleet moved with a coordination that shocked the Krell defenders. Each ship knew exactly where to be, exactly when to fire, exactly how much force to use. It was like watching a dance choreographed by someone who understood the music better than anyone else. The first defense station opened fire, launching dozens of missiles at the human ships. Point defense systems intercepted them with casual efficiency. The missiles exploded harmlessly, their detonations lighting up the darkness like distant fireworks. Lieutenant Yoonji Shin piloted her fighter as part of Squadron 7. She had trained for this moment. But training felt different from reality. Her hands moved automatically, following patterns drilled into her over years of practice. Her squadron moved as one, 20 fighters acting like a single organism. Squadron 7 target Station 3's weapon arrays. Jae Sung's voice came through her communicator. "Disable only. No casualties if avoidable." Yoonji's fighter dove toward the station, her weapons computer identifying critical points. She fired precisely placed shots that took out power conduits and weapon mounts without breaching the hull. Around her, her squadron mates did the same. Within 90 seconds, Station 3 went dark, its weapons offline but its crew unharmed. General Krellvath watched in disbelief as his defenses fell apart. It was impossible. These were human ships, small vessels from a species that had barely mastered spaceflight. Yet they moved like they had been fighting in space for centuries. Every shot they fired hit exactly where it needed to. Every maneuver was perfect. There was no wasted motion, no excess force. "All stations concentrate fire on their command ship," Krellvath ordered. "Overwhelm their defenses." 5 stations turned their weapons toward the Incheon's Fury and fired everything they had. Thousands of projectiles and energy beams converged on the human ship. It should have been torn apart. Instead, the Fury vanished. It reappeared 3,000 kilometers away, completely undamaged. Before the Krell could retarget, the Fury fired a single shot. It was not aimed at a station. It was aimed at empty space between them. The shot detonated in a brilliant flash. When the light faded, all 5 stations that had fired at the Fury were dark. Their power systems were offline. Their weapons were dead, but their life support still functioned, and their crews were alive. "This is Captain Jae Sung-yoon of the Earth Defense Fleet to all Krell forces in this system," Jae Sung broadcast on all frequencies. "We have disabled your defenses. We did it in 17 minutes. We did it without killing a single one of your soldiers. Consider what we could have done if we wanted casualties." Silence filled the communication channels. The Krell had never encountered anything like this. Enemies fought back. Enemies struggled and died and took you with them. Enemies did not dismantle your defenses like a surgeon removing a tumor, careful not to damage healthy tissue. "Stand down and allow us passage," Jae Sung continued. "We are here to recover our people from your homeworld. After that, we will leave, interfere with this mission, and we will show you what we are capable of when we stop being gentle." Sub-Commander Sang Min sat at the weapons console aboard the Fury, monitoring the disabled stations. He had been in the military for 15 years, had studied every major battle in human history, and had trained specifically for this type of operation, precision warfare. Overwhelming force applied with surgical accuracy. "Captain, I am detecting weapons charging on Station 7, Sang-min reported. "They are preparing to fire. Target their weapons only," Jae-sung ordered. "Show them we can see everything they do." Sang-min's fingers moved across his console. The Fury's weapons, designed with technology that bent the rules of physics, fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Each shot traveled faster than the Krell sensors could track. Each shot hit a specific weapon mount on Station 7, destroying the weapons before they could fire. "This is your only warning," Jae-sung broadcast to Station 7 specifically. "The next time you try that, we will disable your entire station's infrastructure. Your crew will be alive, but you will be drifting in space until someone tows you to safety. Do not test us again." The station went silent. No more weapons charged. Back on the Krell homeworld, General Krell Vath received the reports from Vraxis. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. Humans had just destroyed his primary defensive line without breaking a sweat. He activated communications to the fortress where the council delegation was imprisoned. "Execute the hostages immediately. Show these humans that we do not fear them." The order went out. Krell soldiers moved toward the cells where the delegation was being held. They never reached them. Commander Sua-im and her special operations teams had been on the planet for 6 hours. They had infiltrated during the confusion of the fleet's arrival, using stealth ships that the Krell sensors could not detect. They moved through the fortress like ghosts, invisible and silent. When the Krell soldiers came for the hostages, they found empty cells and disabled guard stations. The prisoners were already gone, carried out through maintenance tunnels that the Krell themselves had forgotten existed. Hyunwoo Song stumbled through the dark tunnel, following the human soldier in front of him. He could barely believe this was happening. One moment he had been waiting to die. The next, his cell door had opened to reveal a soldier in advanced armor who simply said, "Time to go home." "How did you get here so fast?" Hyunwoo gasped as they ran. "We were already here," the soldier replied. That was Sua's voice. "We infiltrated the moment the council delegation was taken. We have been waiting for the fleet to arrive so we could extract you during the chaos." They emerged from the tunnels into a cleared landing zone. 2 stealth shuttles waited, their engines already running. The delegation members were quickly loaded aboard. Dr. Yoon-ji helped an injured Praxian delegate into the shuttle, her medical training taking over. "Is everyone accounted for?" Sua asked. "All 23 confirmed alive and boarding," another soldier reported. "Then we leave. Now." The shuttles lifted off just as Krell forces realized what had happened. Alarms blared throughout the fortress. Soldiers scrambled to reach the landing zone, but they were too late. The shuttles activated their stealth systems and disappeared. General Krellvath stared at his tactical display in rage and disbelief. The hostages were gone. His defenses were disabled, and human ships were now entering orbit around his homeworld. This was not how war was supposed to work. You fought. You struggled. You won through strength and determination. You did not lose without even understanding how you lost. "All military vessels engage the human fleet," Krellvath ordered. "Show them what Krell warriors can do." The Krell home fleet was impressive. 200 warships, each one built for maximum firepower. They moved to intercept the human fleet, ready to overwhelm them with numbers and aggressive tactics. Admiral Da-un watched from Earth's command center as the Krell fleet moved into position. They were following predictable patterns, formations designed to maximize their advantages in close combat. They had no idea what they were facing. "All ships execute Sigma Protocol," Da-un ordered. "Demonstrate capability but minimize casualties. I want them to understand what they are dealing with." The human fleet split into groups, each one moving with purpose. The Krell expected a head-on clash, ship against ship, weapons blazing until one side was destroyed. That was how they always fought. That was how they understood war. Instead, the human ships moved around them, through them using maneuvers that seemed impossible. When the Krell fired, human ships were already somewhere else. When the Krell tried to surround them, the humans had already broken the formation and were targeting critical systems. Jae-sung's ship led the assault, moving like a dancer in a room full of fighters who only knew how to throw punches. "Get me authorization from Ambassador Jiwoo to enter Krell space." "And if the Council denies authorization?" An officer Earth's high command was buried 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. The facility had been built 200 years ago, back when humanity first discovered they were not alone in the universe. Back when they realized that peace was a choice, and choices could be taken away. Admiral Da-Un Choi stood in the central command chamber, surrounded by holographic displays that showed every human military asset in the solar system and beyond. The numbers would have shocked the Galactic Council. They thought humanity had maybe 300 warships. They were wrong by a factor of 10. General Woojin Park entered the chamber. He was a broad-shouldered man with white hair and a face marked by old scars. He had been a soldier for 40 years, and he carried the weight of that service in every step. Behind him came dozens of officers, each one representing a different branch of Earth's military. Protocol Ares is fully active, Woojin announced. All reserve fleets have been recalled. Hidden bases are coming online. We can have the first wave ready to deploy in 6 hours. Da-Un nodded. 6 hours. For a civilization that had not fought a major war in over a century. That was remarkably fast. But humanity had not forgotten how to prepare for war. They had simply gotten better at hiding those preparations. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. Ambassador Jiwoo looked exhausted. She had been in emergency sessions with the Galactic Council for 8 hours straight, and the strain showed on her face. The Council has fractured, Jiwoo reported. Half want to negotiate with the Krell. The other half want to surrender to their demands. None of them want to authorize military action. What about our people in the fortress? Da-Un asked. Some counselors say they are acceptable losses. Jiwoo's voice was flat, emotionless. She had spent 2 decades learning to hide her feelings in council chambers. They believe sacrificing 23 beings is preferable to starting a war. Da-Un felt cold rage settle in her chest. She had commanded ships. She had led soldiers. She knew the cost of war better than anyone in that council chamber, but she also knew something they had forgotten. Some things were worth fighting for. I am requesting formal authorization to enter Krell space, Da-Un said. Not as an act of war, but as a rescue operation. The council will refuse, Jiwoo replied. They fear it will escalate the situation. Then I am going anyway. Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled just slightly. I was hoping you would say that. Counselor He-jin and I will handle the political fallout. You focus on bringing our people home. The connection ended. Da-Un turned to face the assembled officers. I want tactical assessments of the Krell homeworld. I want every approach vector mapped. I want to know where every gun, every soldier, every defense system is positioned. And I want options for extraction that do not level half the planet. How much force are we authorized to use? An officer asked. Enough to complete the mission. Not 1 ounce more. Da-Un pulled up a star map. The council thinks we are a young species with adequate defenses. They think our military is suitable for system patrol and pirate suppression. They have no idea what we are actually capable of, and I intend to keep it that way for as long as possible. Captain Jae Sung-yoon had been listening from his position near the tactical displays. He commanded the experimental warship Incheon's Fury, a vessel that represented humanity's cutting edge of military technology. It used systems the council did not even have theories for. Admiral requests permission to speak freely, Jae Sung said. Granted. If we hold back too much, good people will die. The Krell need to understand they made a serious mistake. Half measures will just encourage them. I am not suggesting half measures, Captain. I am suggesting precise ones. Da-Un walked to a display showing the Krell homeworld. We are going to hit them so hard and so fast that they will not have time to hurt our people, but we are going to do it in a way that shows we could have done much worse. Do you understand the difference? Jae Sung thought about it, then nodded. We show capability through restraint. Exactly. The Krell respect strength. But strength is not just about how much you can destroy. It is about how much you choose not to destroy. Another officer pulled up fleet compositions. We have 73 warships within 3 days of Krell space. Another 200 could be there within a week. Send the first wave with clear objectives, Da-Un ordered. Disable their orbital defenses. Secure the fortress. Extract the delegation. No civilian casualties if it can be avoided. No cultural sites destroyed. This is a rescue operation with force authorization, not an invasion. Commander Sua-im stepped forward. She led Earth's Special Operations Forces. Soldiers trained for the missions that no one wanted to talk about. She was small and quiet, the kind of person who could disappear in a crowd. That was what made her dangerous. My teams can infiltrate the fortress, Sua said. We do not need to blast our way in. We can be quiet. How quiet? Dawn asked. The Krell will not know we are there until our people are already gone. That is our first option. But have backup plans ready. If stealth fails, we go loud. Young-Ho Nam, the military AI coordinator, activated a series of displays showing tactical simulations. He was young, maybe 30, but he understood warfare in ways that most veterans never would. He saw patterns, connections, and weaknesses that others missed. I have been running simulations based on Krell military doctrine, Young-Ho said. They rely heavily on overwhelming force and intimidation. They expect enemies to either surrender or fight head-on. They do not have contingencies for asymmetric warfare. Explain, General Wu Jin said. They have never fought an enemy that uses misdirection, false targets, and psychological warfare. They think war is about who hits harder. They do not understand that war is about who thinks better. Dayan smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Then we are going to teach them. The briefing continued for 2 hours. Officers presented plans, discussed logistics, and ran through scenarios. Every possible outcome was mapped, every contingency prepared. This was what humanity had become good at. Not fighting wars, but planning them so thoroughly that the actual fighting became almost predictable. Finally, Da-Un called for silence. I want to make something absolutely clear. We are not going to Krell space to conquer anyone. We are not there to punish them or destroy them. We are there to rescue our people and make it very clear that taking hostages is a mistake they will never make again. She paused, looking at each officer in turn. The council thinks we are young and naive. They think we chose peace because we are weak. They do not understand that we chose peace because we know the alternative. Every single one of you has studied Earth's history. You know what humans are capable of when we turn warfare into an art form. You know what happens when we decide that victory is the only option. The chamber was silent except for the quiet hum of holographic projectors. The Krell are about to discover what happens when you threaten humans, Dawn continued. And the council is about to learn why we fear war. Not because we lose, not because we lack courage. We fear it because when we fight, we win. And winning comes with a cost that never fully heals. She activated a final display. It showed Earth from space, that beautiful blue marble floating in the darkness. We fight to protect this. We fight to protect the beings who cannot protect themselves. And we do it in a way that honors the lessons our ancestors learned through blood and fire. When do we deploy? Jae-sung asked. Immediately. First wave launches within the hour. Sua, get your teams into position. Jae-sung, your ship leads the assault. Young-Ho, I want you coordinating tactical AI across all vessels. Wu Jin, you have overall strategic command. The officers saluted and dispersed to their duties. Within minutes, the chamber became a flurry of activity. Ships were being prepared, soldiers briefed, and weapons loaded. The machinery of war, rusted from decades of peace, began to turn again. Da-Yun stood alone for a moment, watching the displays. She thought about the council and their belief that violence was always wrong. She thought about the Krell and their belief that might made right. Both were wrong in different ways. Violence was not always wrong. Sometimes it was the only thing that stopped greater violence, but it had to be used carefully, precisely, and with full understanding of its consequences. That was the lesson humanity had learned. That was the burden they carried. Her communicator chimed. It was Commander Tae Yang calling from Council Space. I heard about the deployment, Tae Yang said. How bad is the pushback? Catastrophic, probably, Da-Yun replied. We are violating Council directives. We could face sanctions, expelled from the Council. Trade embargoes. Worth it? Da-Un did not hesitate. Absolutely. Some things matter more than politics. Good hunting, Admiral. We do not hunt, Commander. We rescue. There is a difference. The call ended. Da-Yun walked to the observation deck where she could see the launch bays. Ships were already moving, sliding out of their hidden berths like sharks leaving the deep. Each one represented years of research, billions in resources, and the accumulated knowledge of human warfare refined over 10,000 years of conflict. The Krell had made a mistake. They had judged humanity based on appearances, assuming that, wow. The diplomatic vessel Luminous Dawn was the pride of the Galactic Council. It measured 3 kilometers from bow to stern, with halls made of materials that shifted color based on the emotions of those walking through them. Right now, those halls glowed with soft blues and greens, colors meant to project peace and calm. Hyun Woo Song did not feel peaceful or calm. He stood in his small cabin, staring at his reflection in the mirror. 28 years old, junior diplomatic attaché and the only human forced to join this doomed mission. He had argued against it. Ambassador Jiwoo had argued against it. But the council insisted that all member species be represented in their envoy to the Krell. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Captain Min Seo-han. She was not supposed to be here. Her ship, the Shadow of Seoul, was an intelligence vessel that officially did not exist, but Min Seo had a way of going where she was not supposed to be. I have maybe 5 minutes before their sensors figure out I am here, Min Seo said, stepping inside quickly. She was a compact woman with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. So listen carefully, Hyunwoo nodded. He had known Min Seo since the academy. She had gone into military intelligence while he chose diplomacy. Different paths, same goal. Keep humanity safe. This mission is a trap, Min Seo said bluntly. My team has been analyzing Krell communications for weeks. They are not interested in talking. They are planning something, and they want council representatives on their homeworld when they do it. I told them, Hyunwoo said, frustration bleeding into his voice. I told the delegation commander. He said I was being paranoid. He said humans always expect the worst. We expect the worst because we have seen the worst, Min Seo replied. She pulled out a small data chip and pressed it into his hand. This contains everything we know about Krell military positions, their command structure, and possible escape routes from their home world. If things go bad, and they will go bad, you need to survive long enough for rescue. Earth is not authorized to conduct rescue operations in Krell space. Min Seo smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Since when has that stopped us? Admiral Da-un already has 3 strike groups positioned on the border. We cannot enter Krell territory without council approval, but the moment you are in danger, that changes. Before Hyunwoo could respond, his communicator chirped. The delegation was assembling. Time to continue toward whatever waited in Krell space. Min Seo squeezed his shoulder once, then left as quickly as she had arrived. Hyunwoo pocketed the data chip and walked to the assembly hall. The main delegation consisted of 23 beings from different species. Most had never left their home worlds before joining the diplomatic corps. They talked excitedly about the historic nature of their mission, about how they would bring the Krell into the galactic community. They believed in the power of words and treaties. Hyunwoo said nothing. He had read the history books. He knew what happened when peaceful civilizations met aggressive ones. It never ended well for the peaceful ones. 3 days later, the luminous dawn entered Krell space. The border was marked by debris fields, the remains of ships that had been destroyed trying to flee Krell expansion. The delegation commander ordered the debris not be mentioned in reports. No need to start things with negative observations. The Krell homeworld appeared on the view screens. It was a massive planet, mostly red and brown with swirling white clouds. Orbital stations surrounded it like a crown of thorns, each one bristling with weapons. Dr. Yoonji Kang, a human xenopsychologist who had managed to join the mission, stood beside Hyunwoo as they watched. Notice the architecture, Yoonji said quietly. She was an older woman, maybe 50, with gray streaking through her black hair. Every structure is designed to project power. Nothing soft, nothing welcoming. This is a culture built entirely around dominance. Can they change? Hyunwoo asked. Anyone can change, Yoonji replied. The question is whether they want to, and I see no evidence that they do. The Krell granted them permission to land. The luminous dawn settled onto a massive platform surrounded by armed Krell soldiers. The Krell were tall, easily 8 feet on average, with thick gray skin covered in natural armor plates. Their faces were hard angles and sharp edges, with eyes that reflected light like mirrors. General Krellvath met them at the platform. He wore armor decorated with marks that Hyunwoo recognized as kill tallies. Each mark represented a life taken in combat. The general had thousands of them. Welcome, council delegates, Krellvath said. His voice came through translation as deep and rough, like stones grinding together. We are honored that you traveled so far to speak with us. The delegation commander, a Veloxian named Sareth, bowed deeply. We come in peace and friendship. The council wishes to discuss how we might coexist prosperously. Of course, Krellvath said. Please follow me to the negotiation chambers. We have prepared everything for your comfort. They were led into a massive fortress carved from black stone. The halls were wide enough for armies to march through. Every wall showed scenes of Krell victories, conquered worlds, defeated enemies. This was not a place built for diplomacy. This was a monument to war. Lieutenant Bom Lee, who served as Min Seo's intelligence officer aboard the Shadow of Seoul, watched from orbit. Her ship stayed hidden, using stealth technology that the Council did not know humans possessed. She monitored every transmission, every energy signature, every movement of Krell military assets. "Captain," Bom said, her voice tight, "I am picking up massive troop movements. They are surrounding the fortress where our delegation is being held." "Held?" Min Seo asked sharply. "You said held, not housed." "Yes, ma'am. The fortress is sealed. No one has entered or left since our delegation arrived 3 hours ago. And Krell military vessels are moving into attack positions around the planet." Min Seo felt ice form in her chest. She had been right. This was a trap. "Get me a direct line to Admiral Daeun. Authorization code Shadow 7. Inside the fortress, the delegation had been shown to luxurious rooms. Food was provided, entertainment offered. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect. Hyunwoo could not shake the feeling that they were animals in a cage being fattened before slaughter. Yoonji appeared at his door. "Something is wrong. The Krell guards keep looking at us like we are already dead." Before Hyunwoo could respond, alarms blared throughout the fortress. The doors to their rooms sealed with heavy metallic clangs. Hyunwoo ran to his door and found it locked from the outside. A holographic display activated in the center of his room. General Krellvath appeared, his face showing something that might have been satisfaction. "Council delegates," the general said, "your presence here serves a greater purpose than you know. Your council has rejected strength in favor of weakness. This cannot be tolerated. You will remain here as proof of our power." The hologram switched to show Krell fleets launching from orbital stations. Dozens of warships, each one massive and heavily armed. They were not positioning for defense. They were preparing to attack. "We demand that 5 council species submit to Krell authority within 10 standard days," Krellvath continued. "If they refuse, we will execute you all and continue our expansion. Your deaths will prove that words mean nothing against strength. Only power matters. Only victory endures." The hologram cut off. Hyunwoo stood frozen for a moment, then pulled out the data chip Min Seo had given him. He plugged it into his personal device and began searching for escape routes. But deep down he knew there were none. They were trapped on a hostile world, surrounded by armies with a fleet preparing to launch an invasion. He activated his emergency beacon, knowing it might be his last transmission. "This is Attaché Hyunwoo's song to any human vessels in range. The delegation is captured. The Krell are preparing for war. Tell Admiral Daeun she was right. Tell Commander Taeyang he warned them. And tell my family I tried." Aboard the Shadow of Seoul, Min Seo heard the transmission. She was already burning toward the edge of Krell space. Her ship's engines pushed past safety limits. She could not rescue the delegation alone, but she could get their intelligence back to Earth. "Communications. Send everything we have to Admiral Daeun," Min Seo ordered. "Full data burst, all channels. The Council needs to know what is coming." Bom's fingers flew across her console. Message sent. "Admiral acknowledges receipt. She says to get clear of Krell space immediately. What about the delegation?" Her exact words were, "Get clear now. We will handle the rescue." "That is what we do." Min Seo changed course, her ship disappearing into the darkness between stars. Behind her, on the Krell home world, 23 beings waited in sealed rooms, prisoners of a species that viewed mercy as weakness. And somewhere in Council space, alarms began to sound. Emergency meetings were called. Leaders who had spent centuries avoiding conflict suddenly faced the reality of it. The Krell had made their move, and the galaxy would never be the same. In Earth's military command center, Admiral Daeun stood before a holographic display showing Krell fleet positions. Around her, officers waited for orders. She had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come. "Activate Protocol Ares," she said quietly. "Full mobilization. Every fleet, every ship, every soldier." The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wide enough to hold a small city. 12 species sat in their designated sections, each representing civilizations that had mastered space travel thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. The air hummed with translation devices, converting thousands of languages into a symphony of understanding. Commander Taeyang Kim stood at the center platform, his dark uniform a sharp contrast to the flowing robes and ornamental garments worn by the alien delegates. His face remained calm, but his hands gripped the edge of the podium just a little too tight. He had been speaking for 10 minutes, and not a single counselor seemed to be listening. The holographic display behind him showed star systems painted in red. 17 colonies destroyed, millions displaced. The Krell Empire was expanding, and they were doing it through violence and conquest. Every system they touched became a graveyard. High Chancellor Vexrith leaned back in his floating chair. His species, the Veloxians, had blue skin that shimmered like water, and eyes that seemed to hold the depth of oceans. He had lived for 300 years and served on the council for half that time. He had never seen a real war. None of them had. "Commander Kim," Vexrith said, his voice carrying easily across the chamber, "we appreciate Earth's concern, but military force is not the answer. We have maintained peace for 3,000 years through dialogue and understanding." Tae-Yang took a slow breath. He had expected this response. Ambassador Jiwoo Park had warned him before the meeting. The older woman sat in the human delegation section, her silver hair pulled back neatly, her expression neutral. She had spent 20 years learning to navigate council politics, and she knew exactly how this would go. "With respect, Chancellor," Tae-Yang said, keeping his voice level, "the Krell do not respond to dialogue. We have studied their culture extensively. They view negotiation as weakness. Every diplomatic envoy you have sent has been ignored or mocked." A counselor from the Praxian delegation made a sound like wind chimes laughing. The Praxians looked like tall, thin crystals that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. "Perhaps your species simply lacks the proper approach, Commander. Diplomacy is an art that takes centuries to master." Tae-Yang felt heat rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry would only prove their point. They thought humans were young, primitive, emotional. They did not understand that humans had been fighting wars since before recorded history. They did not understand that humanity had nearly destroyed itself dozens of times, and had learned terrible lessons along the way. "The Krell have destroyed 17 systems in 6 months, Tae-Yang said, changing tactics. He pulled up another hologram, this one showing casualty numbers. 2 million beings are dead. Another 5 million are refugees with nowhere to go. How many more will die while we talk?" Counselor Hae-Jin Lee, the human representative on the council, stood up. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for blunt honesty that made other counselors uncomfortable. "The human government offers a solution. Allow Earth's defense fleet to intervene. We can stop the Krell advance within weeks." The chamber erupted in noise. Not angry shouts, but something worse. Laughter. Polite, dismissive laughter that made Tae-Yang's jaw tighten. Vexrith raised one hand and the chamber fell silent. "Counselor Lee, we mean no disrespect to your world, but humanity has been part of the galactic community for less than a century. Your military technology is adequate for system defense, perhaps, but engaging the Krell Empire would require capabilities far beyond what Earth possesses." "You have not seen what we possess," Hae-Jin said quietly. "We have reviewed your fleet compositions," another counselor said. "This one belonged to the Torvian species, beings who looked like mobile plants with faces made of flower petals. Your ships are well designed for their age, but the Krell have numbers and firepower that would overwhelm you within days." Admiral Da-Yoon Choi, who had been sitting silently in the military observer section, finally spoke. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen things most civilians could not imagine. She had commanded ships in border conflicts and pirate suppression. She knew what real combat looked like. "You are making assumptions based on incomplete data," Da-Yoon said. Her voice carried the weight of command, the tone of someone used to being obeyed. "What you see in our fleet manifests is what we choose to show you." Vexrith tilted his head, an expression of curiosity among his people. "Are you suggesting Earth has been hiding military assets from the Council? That would violate several treaties." "We have hidden nothing," Da-Yoon replied. "We simply do not advertise our full capabilities. There is a difference." Ambassador Jiwoo finally stood, her movements careful and deliberate. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. She had earned respect over 2 decades of service, even if they did not fully trust her judgment on military matters. "Members of the Council," Jiwoo began, her voice clear and strong. "Humanity learned a terrible truth thousands of years ago. We learned it through blood and fire, and cities turned to ash. We learned that war is easy to start and almost impossible to stop. We learned that victory in battle means nothing if you lose your soul in the process." She paused, letting the translation devices catch up. That is why we fear war. Not because we are bad at it. Not because we lack courage or capability. We fear it because we know exactly what it costs. Taeyang felt something shift in the room. A few counselors had stopped smiling. They were actually listening now. Earth offers you a choice, Jiwoo continued. Let us handle the Krell. Let us stop this expansion before it reaches the core worlds. We do not want glory or territory. We do not want to rule the Krell or punish them beyond what is necessary. We want to end this threat quickly and with as little bloodshed as possible. And if we refuse? Vexrith asked. Then you will try diplomacy, Taeyang said, and more beings will die. And eventually the Krell will reach a world that the Council cannot afford to lose, and then you will have no choice but to fight. But by then the cost will be so much higher. The Council chamber fell silent. Counselors looked at each other, communicating through subtle gestures and private channels. Finally, Vexrith spoke. The Council appreciates Earth's offer, but we believe a diplomatic solution is still possible. We will send an envoy to the Krell homeworld. We will offer them trade agreements, technology sharing, and a seat on the Council itself if they cease their expansion. Taeyang felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had seen this before, in history books and old records. Appeasement. Giving aggressive powers what they wanted in hopes they would stop wanting more. It never worked. It never had. Chancellor, please reconsider, he said. The Krell will view this as surrender. They will... The decision is made, Commander Kim, Vexrith said, not unkindly. We have evolved beyond solving our problems through violence. That is what separates us from species like the Krell. We choose a better way. The session ended. Delegates filed out of the chamber, already discussing trade routes and economic forecasts. None of them talked about contingency plans or military responses. Why would they? They had never needed such things before. Taeyang walked back to the human delegation area where Jiwoo and Daeun waited. The ambassador looked tired. The admiral looked angry. They will not listen, Daeun said flatly, and beings will die because of it. I know, Jiwoo replied, but we have done what we can. Now we wait and prepare for what comes next. Taeyang looked back at the empty council chamber. The holographic displays had shut down. The lights had dimmed. Somewhere out in space, the Krell were preparing their next conquest. And here, in this beautiful chamber built for peace, the galaxy's leaders were choosing to do nothing. They do not understand, Taeyang said quietly. They do not understand why we fear war. No, Jiwoo agreed. But they will learn. Everyone learns eventually. The only question is how much it will cost them. The three humans left the chamber, walking through halls built by species who had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. Behind them, the Council continued to believe that words could stop bullets and treaties could halt armies. They believed this because they had never learned otherwise. Humanity had learned otherwise. Humanity had learned it the hard way, through centuries of blood and suffering and loss, and now, whether the Council wanted it or not, they were about to learn the same lesson